Welcome back, Trailblazers. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to talk about a tool that has completely transformed the way I plan and navigate my hikes, AllTrails Plus. As a Trailheads ambassador and the organizer of the Yakima Valley Trekkers, I'm out on the trails a lot. One of my favorite features of AllTrails Plus is the ability to edit and create my own maps. Conditions change, fallen trees, washed out sections, or even a last-minute reroute. And with AllTrails Plus, I can adjust my route on the fly and share it with others so everyone stays informed and safe. AllTrails Plus also gives you offline maps, wrong turn alerts, and 3D trail previews to help you stay on track and make the most of your adventure. And the best part, you can get 30% off an AllTrails Plus membership with my exclusive link in the episode show notes. So whether you're planning your next big trek or just looking for a new trail to explore, AllTrails Plus has you covered. Check it out and let's hit the trail. Welcome everyone to the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I'm your host Ivan, and together we'll embark on a weekly journey, connecting with extraordinary hikers from all corners of the United States and beyond. Throughout these winter months, we've had the privilege of conversing with remarkable individuals. Their experiences and adventures will leave you yearning to hit the trails. In today's episode, we're joined by Betsy, a travel nurse and avid explorer whose journey has taken her from the beaches of Florida to the rugged peaks of California and beyond. Betsy shares how she found solace in the outdoors during the challenges of the pandemic and how hiking became her form of therapy. We dive into some of her bucket list adventures, including climbing Half Dome in Yosemite, hiking the Wave in Arizona, and spotting wildlife in Grand Teton National Park. She also gives us a glimpse into van life, her love for winter hiking, and her goal to explore more international trails in 2025, as well as get into backpacking. Without further ado, let's jump into this episode with our guest, Betsy. Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I have a really exciting guest with me today. She's a traveling nurse that's going to be sharing about her outdoor experiences out west and abroad. Her name is Betsy. Thank you so much, Betsy, for coming on the podcast. We always like to start off by asking our guests to share a little bit about themselves and how they got started hiking.
Thank you so much for having me, Ivan. I'm really excited to be here. So my name is Betsy. I was originally born in Cuba. I moved to Florida when I was about 6 years old. Once I was in Florida, I didn't do too much hiking, I would say. I always kind of just was more into being around the water, did a lot of outdoors activities in terms of swimming, paddleboarding, kayaking, things like that. I didn't really get into hiking until maybe I would say like 3 or 4 years ago, once I started traveling and I became a travel nurse.
And I'm always fascinated with Florida because I think it's like flying under the radar as far as like outdoor recreations. I know personally on my bucket list, I'd love to be able to paddle through some of those crystal clear waters that you guys have, like lagoons. But, you know, being raised there in Florida, how would you describe the hiking scene in and around your local trails?
I don't think I guess there is some hiking, but I think there isn't as many, like there's no elevation. There's no really like mountains or anything like that. A lot of the terrain is like swampy. I grew up in Miami, and that's pretty much where I had my entire childhood. So I remember going to the Everglades on field trips and things like that. And then it wasn't until maybe my college years when I moved to Gainesville that I kind of experienced more of the springs. There was more springs in that area. For example, Ginny Springs was there, and you could do camping or go tubing down the spring. At one point, I also lived in Orlando, which is closer to like Wekiva Springs, and the waters are super clear. They have a lot of kayaking and a lot of paddleboarding there. I never honestly did much hiking per se in Florida.
Ginny Springs is definitely on my bucket list. When it comes to those springs, are those year-round accessible, or is it typically more the spring, summer, and fall?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. Usually when I would go was during the summertime and during the springtime. I personally went to college in Gainesville, which is less than an hour away from Ginny Springs. We had a lot of events from the college there. A lot of people would go there, especially during the summers. When I lived in Orlando for like Wekiva Springs and things like that, it's open year round. I don't know if people would actually get in the water during the winter time. even though technically the water's not really that cold.
Although I did see a post today that Florida got some significant snow on the ground, which is just, crazy to see because you don't necessarily think Florida and snow, but it happens every once in a while, right?
Yeah, that is definitely crazy. I was actually looking at my Snapchat today and I saw a story from 4 or 5 years ago that it was 32 degrees in Gainesville, which I thought was crazy because I didn't even remember it being that cold, but it definitely does get cold and chilly.
Now, Betsy, you've had such an incredible journey as a travel nurse, and you're currently based in California. How has it been coming out and exploring the West from Florida?
So coming to California has been great. I kind of started travel nursing right after COVID happened. With COVID and everything going on, I kind of found refuge in being outdoors. And I think once I came over to California, I truly got to get into hiking and get into just kind of travel and explore as much as I could. Being outdoors was the main way that I could cope with different stressors that I was dealing with at work. It just kind of provided a different outlet for me. It was, as silly as it sounds, it kind of became one of my forms of therapy. It just kind of helps soothe my anxiety or sometimes depression. There's so much to see and so much to explore out in the West Coast, whether it was going to the beach or going to a mountain or being by a waterfall. All those things just kind of helped me be more grateful for life and just really appreciate life in general.
Yeah, I think a lot of us found it very therapeutic to be outside and be in the outdoors, especially during COVID. And I think people have definitely continued with that practice of going outside when things are stressful or when they just need a pause or a break. This next question I know is going to be extremely difficult, Betsy, but you've seen so many amazing, not just national parks, but state parks and beaches. If you had to do a top 3 memorable or favorite destinations that you've had a chance to visit while you've been out west, what have they been or what would they be?
I think one of my for sure top moments was doing Half Dome in Yosemite. I think Yosemite overall is an amazing park and it's for sure one of my top 3 parks that I've been to. But just doing Half Dome in general, just how hard it was to do and how accomplished I felt at the end was just a feeling I've never had before. All the views were amazing, the waterfalls, everybody in the hiking community in general was so welcoming and nice, and just the way that everybody greets each other on the hike or kind of motivates you to keep going, or they tell you oh, you're almost there, or only a couple more minutes or a couple more steps and you'll be there. And everyone was just very, very motivating, and that was a huge turning point for me, and it's one of my most cherished memories. I would say that for sure is one of my top 3. Another memorable moment was when I went to Grand Tetons. I went with one of my really good friends. She's actually also a travel nurse, and we rented a van and we did a whole van road trip. Lasted about a week, I would say. And we got to experience so much in Grand Tetons, from waking up with an amazing view to making breakfast in our van and then going hiking or going for a swim in the water. The whole experience of the van trip and Grand Tetons in itself was just one of my top highlights and something that I hope that I can do again. I would say the third one would probably be, it's not a national park, but it was getting a permit to do the wave in Arizona. It was very challenging because you don't really have a map or anything, but think outside the box and figure out different ways to get to the final destination. It was a very challenging hike, but the reward was just amazing and unlike anything I had ever seen. And I would say that's for sure one of my top moments and a hike that I would really enjoy doing again.
Wow, Betsy. I got to ask, did all these 3 happen in the same year?
They did not. So Half Dome actually happened last year around May. It was the weekend that the cables were first put up. I actually went to Yosemite without having a permit. A day before I applied for the permit and randomly got chosen and got the permit. I ended up staying at Curry Village. And we did the whole wake up at 5 a.m. and go hike in the middle of the night. And it was from start to finish. It was amazing. It was a very tiring day. It was about 18 hours, an 18-hour day, but it was 100% worth it. And then the Grand Tetons was the year prior, around September time. And the wave was, I would say, the year before that, in the summertime. But the wave also was kind of a luck of the draw kind of situation. I didn't really know that I was going to be going to the wave, or like I didn't know I was going to be in that vicinity until I was. And then I actually ended up going twice early in the morning to try to get the permit. I didn't get it on the first day. And then on the second day that we went and we did the lottery, we ended up getting it. But it was definitely something that wasn't planned. I never thought that I would even be able to do the wave.
Oh man, that's some incredible bucket list destinations that you were able to check off in a few short years that you've been out west. I gotta ask also, because I think a lot of people have a dream or they hope to be able to experience van life. With your taste of van life in the Grand Tetons, is that something that you're looking at exploring in future years or future trips?
Actually, this year, I have like 2 different like trips kind of planned. I would love to get a van and do the Mighty 5. So I've already done Zion and Bryce, but I would love to add in the Arches, Capitol Reef, and Canyonlands. I think that would be a great trip to do in a van. It does require some driving, but I think some of the views and some of the experiences that you get, you could only get while you're traveling in a van and not staying at hotels or things like that.
I think you definitely have some of the best sunrises and sunset views from where you end up camping compared to what you would in a hotel.
Yeah, definitely. And another idea that I have had is to kind of go through the Canadian Rockies in a van and explore, like hit a lot of the parks around there. Luckily with my job, I am able to take a lot of time off. So usually I will take off like a month or a month and a half in between assignments. So hopefully this summer I'm able to do at least one of those 2 trips.
And I think from your Instagram, I also saw that you made it up to my neck of the woods up in the Pacific Northwest, and you were able to cross off Mount Rainier. Did you get a chance to visit any of the other parks here in the Pacific Northwest?
I did like Crater Lake, and then I did Mount Rainier. That was maybe like 2.5 or 3 years ago. I'm dying to go back so that I can do Olympic and North Cascades. Hopefully I can get that done this year. One of the things that I want to do eventually, I've been mainly traveling in California. I would like to start branching out, and I would like to take an assignment in Washington around the summertime. So hopefully if I'm able to do that, then I'll be able to cross those parks off the list as well.
You know, talking about national parks, one of the things that really caught my attention from your feed, especially during the holiday season, is you did a really fun 12 Days of National Park series on your Instagram. What inspired that series, and what was your favorite part of putting it together?
I mainly did that series for 2 reasons. Mainly it was because I wanted to like obviously motivate people to get outside and explore the world because there's so much to see. But also just because I know sometimes the holidays or even like going into a new year may not be the easiest time for people. I know I myself sometimes get caught up in like my New Year's resolutions and like what did I accomplish or what didn't I accomplish. And I think doing those posts every single day kind of allowed me to be grateful and to show gratitude for everything that I have accomplished and everything that I have experienced. I think it just kind of set me up for having a positive outlook on the new year just by being like grateful for everything that I have done and being hopeful and excited for all the things that are to come in the year.
Yeah, I really love that series and what you were able to showcase with the community. Is that something you think you might redo in 2025?
It's something I would definitely like to continue doing. If not exactly like the 12 days of national parks, I would like to do something similar, maybe like a different kind of recap on the year or just something to show that I'm grateful for everything that I have done. And it is a nice way for me to see how far I've come. And I'm not going to lie, like putting those posts together does make me happy to look at all the pictures, and it brings back memories, and it's like a trip down memory lane of all these happy moments and what they've meant to me.
You know, one thing that I noticed, Betsy, and I feel like as I get older, I am a little bit more apprehensive with heights. But I noticed that you mentioned that you kind of have a fear of heights, and you've been able to cross off, like you said, Half Dome, but also Angel's Landing, which I think for a lot of people, it's on their bucket list, but a lot of people do have concerns about, you know, summiting Angel's Landing because of the chains and the narrow path. How did you tackle that challenge of having the fear of heights? And then what was kind of going through your mind on some of those narrow paths?
Yeah, so I definitely am terrified of heights. Usually whenever I'm doing something like that, I kind of try to just tell myself to push through. I definitely try not to look down because sometimes I have psyched myself out So I just try to keep pushing through. A lot of times in the hikes, I'll see people who are older than me or not as athletic as me, maybe even way younger than me doing things. And I kind of just tell myself, like, if they can do it, so can I. So I kind of just keep repeating that in my head over and over again until I kind of believe it. And then also sometimes I think back to like patients that I've had in the past where I know that they wish that they could be in that position to be able to do things like that. And I kind of just tell myself, I don't know when my last day will be, and I need to just kind of live my life to the fullest. Even if it scares me, I'd rather have something scare me than not. So I just kind of force myself to keep going, and I try not to psych myself out.
I mean, those two in particular are definitely some of the more challenging, with Half Dome, just the mileage, the elevation gain, but Angel's Landing, it could be crowded at times, but it can be so narrow, and you've been able to knock those two out on your bucket list. Really impressive. And like you said, sometimes it's motivating to see other people being able to accomplish it. Now, the other thing that surprised me, Betsy, is I feel like we've switched roles where I'll admit I'm a bit of a fair weather hiker. I know I'm out of the Pacific Northwest and I'm slowly starting to dabble into winter hiking, but you really love winter hiking. Would you say you prefer it over the summer? And if you do, what about the winter treks that you enjoy more? And how does the experience change without the crowds?
I have posted that before, but I think mainly what I meant by it was that I like how whenever there's snow on the ground or on the trees, it adds a touch of magic to the scene. I do think it's a lot harder to hike in the snow and in the winter. I guess it has its perks in terms of you're not overheating or things like that. I myself have asthma. Sometimes hiking in the winter can get a little bit harder for me just because it's harder to breathe, or I don't know really how to describe it, but I do think there's magic in seeing snow. And like, for example, when I went to Sequoia, I've been to Sequoia while there was snow, and then I also went while there was no snow at all. And I'd have to say I do prefer the way that it was with the snow. I just thought it looked more magical, but I thought it was a lot easier to hike without the snow, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's definitely a toss-up because I think both scenarios are great. And because I've even also been to like Crater Lake and I've seen it with snow and then I've seen it without snow. I think it looks amazing both ways, but it's just so different and like amazing when it's with snow. But then on the same token, a lot of trails do end up being closed. So I do feel like it's sometimes in the summertime you're able to experience a little bit more. I mean, if I could, I would see everything during both seasons.
Right.
But
yeah, get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Now, Betsy, one thing that you've been able to showcase on your Instagram is the incredible wildlife encounters that you've had on some of these trips, which include spotting a moose in Grand Tetons and then also seeing a Channel Island fox on the Channel Islands National Park. Can you tell us a little bit about these experiences and what it was like to witness some of these, majestic and unique creatures?
Yeah, definitely. So coming from Florida, I've obviously had never seen a moose in my life. So when we went to Grand Tetons, I remember my friend and I kind of talking in the van, and we kept saying how like all we wanted to see was some kind of wildlife. I remember that I think this was maybe our 4th or 5th day at Grand Teton, and we were going to do a hike. I forgot what the hike was called, but we had to get on the ferry across Jenny Lake. And I remember we were walking the whole time and people kept saying how they had spotted a moose and all this stuff. My friend and I kept walking and walking, hoping that we would see the moose. It wasn't until we got into like an area that everybody had binoculars and everybody just kept staring at something. And unfortunately, my friend and I didn't have binoculars, but everybody was super friendly and they were all willing to share the binoculars and like kind of pointing where the moose was. At this point, the moose was, I don't know if it was sleeping or I'm not really sure, but it was kind of laying down and all you could see were the antlers. My friend and I just kept waiting because we wanted to finally see the moose come up. I think we waited like 2 hours. We had this feeling like it's going to finally get up and we're going to get to see it and it's going to be amazing. And we kept waiting and being patient, along with a bunch of other people that were just sitting on rocks, just waiting for this moose to get up. And it was amazing. Once it finally did get up, it was by far the biggest moose I've seen to date. Its antlers were huge. I can't even describe what I felt when I saw it. It was just, it made the whole trip. And Like everybody was just in awe, and like the moose just kind of kept walking around and eating, and it was just amazing to see. And I've seen moose after that, and nothing compares to that feeling, because I feel like we also waited so long for it that there was so much built up emotion that it was just so much more meaningful than just driving and seeing a random moose. So that was pretty amazing. The other encounter was the island fox. That one was also pretty cool because they kept talking about how the foxes used to be extinct at a point, and then the foxes are only native to that island. So it was pretty awesome to see. Like, we saw, I think during my hike, I saw maybe like 3 or 4, but there was one in particular that crossed the road right in front of me. And it was funny because it looked at me, and like there was another, like other people hiking, and it just kind of kept turning back and forth because it didn't know which way to go. But it was like the cutest thing. They were like super tiny and they were just adorable. It was amazing. And I've never had an encounter that close up.
And Betsy, I've seen pictures of them. I haven't been able to make it out to Channel Islands yet, but how big would you say they are? Are they a little bit bigger than like a house cat or like a small dog?
I would say like probably like a little bit bigger than a house cat. I feel like a lot of it is hair. They're like really, really tiny. I think they only, like from what I read, I think they weigh maybe like 6 pounds or something. Like they're very, very small. So I don't think they're as big as a dog for sure. They're very small.
One of the regular segments that we do here, Betsy, on the podcast is we like to do a deep dive into our guests' Instagram and ask them about a particular post or reel. And the pictures that kept like stopping me in my tracks that you've been able to share are pictures from some incredibly beautiful beaches along the West Coast, especially in California, from well-known spots to others that I think are flying under the radar. What have been some of your favorite beaches that you've been able to visit and explore?
So usually whenever I'm on assignment somewhere, I do try to branch out and find all the spots. And one thing that I love doing in between my assignments or in between work days, or sometimes I'll even go before work or after work. I work night shift, so sometimes I'll go and try to catch the sunrise by the beach, or sometimes I'll try to catch the sunset. And I've found some of the most amazing beaches ever. One of my favorite ones is College Cove, and that's kind of like Northern California, close to Eureka and by like Trinidad. You have to hike maybe like a mile down or so, but it's a pretty secluded beach. It's absolutely stunning. It has like rock formations, and it's been one of the prettiest sunsets I've seen for sure. Another beach that I've really liked, I actually just went this weekend with my parents. I'm staying right now close to Big Sur, so I went to Pfeiffer Beach, and then we saw the sunset there. And the way that the sun hits, well, there's like a keyhole arch, and the way that the sun hits the arch, apparently it only happens from the end of December till mid-January. So it was pretty awesome to kind of get to experience that. It creates like a keyhole, and it looks almost like you're opening the door with the way that the sun's hitting the water. And that was pretty amazing. And then the sand also has like a purple glow to it, which I had never really seen. So that's for sure is at the top of my list. And then another one that I've really liked going, that I went a couple times, was Sunset Cliffs near San Diego. That was a great place, but it's definitely a little bit more crowded. A lot of people definitely know more about that one. The more secluded ones that I would say that I've really enjoyed would be College Cove and Pfeiffer Beach.
And Betsy, how are you able to find it? Is it through like AllTrails, or are you doing some Googling to find some of these places?
Honestly, a lot of times I just Google places that are in the vicinity of my assignment, or I ask a lot of the people that I work with about different places that they recommend or things like that. And I mean, some of these beaches are local beaches that only locals would know about. Luckily, people at work do share things like that. A lot of times it's either by word of mouth, or I just do my own research and try to find things.
Yeah, you've been able to share some amazing, just incredible looking beaches. And I was definitely saving some of them because I'd love to be able to explore the California coast. I've done Oregon, but I think California has some really beautiful beaches, especially from Big Sur all the way up to Eureka.
Yeah, definitely. I would say for sure, those have been the nicest beaches that I've been to.
Betsy, that was it for like the regular questions. These next 3 questions are questions that we like to ask all our guests. The first one is, when it comes to summit routines, some hikers have a regular routine that they do, whether it's at the summit or maybe at the end of the hike. For a lot of us, it's packing the favorite snack or drink. For others, it's a moment of zen or the favorite meal afterwards. Is there a regular customer routine that you like to do when you reach your destination or when you make it back out?
Usually, whenever I go on long hikes, I tend to always pack either like a White Claw or like a beer that's like specific to that area that I'm hiking in. And then whenever I reach the top, I usually do like to celebrate by having a drink. Like I did that after Half Dome, and like I've done it usually whenever it's like a longer hike that it's like an accomplishment. I do try to have like some kind of drink just to like celebrate. And then usually on the way back, sometimes I don't really have many options of what kind of foods are available, but usually I would love to have a pizza or just something kind of rewarding. Aside from that, I feel like those are just usually what I tend to do. I don't have like a specific ritual or anything like that.
In your opinion, who's had the best local beer, whether it's a state or region that you've been able to try?
I had one, I don't even remember the name of it. I think it was like called This Is 30 or something like that. And that's the one that I took to Half Dome. And I feel like that was probably one of my favorite beers. And I'm not like a huge beer drinker. I usually only drink them when my friends are really into breweries or things like that, or during hikes, but I actually truly enjoyed that beer. I would go with that one.
And then this next question is about your pack list. Is there a luxury item that you tend to pack that falls outside of the essentials?
Honestly, I don't think so, but I feel like my friends would probably say otherwise because they've told me before that they don't even know why my backpack is so heavy. But I don't think that there is anything in specific that I pack that's like not needed. So I'm not really sure. Maybe I guess I don't need a tripod.
I think some people have said tripods. Some people even say summit beer if they're really counting their ounces in grams. Carrying that 12-ounce can or 16-ounce can can definitely add some weight.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess that's not essential like water would be. So I guess that counts.
Are your friends making you carry all the summit beers? Is that why your pack is heavy?
So it kind of depends. Sometimes we take turns, or sometimes I'll carry the bag for a little bit and then they'll carry it for a little bit. Sometimes I'm the one that really is pushing for the beer, so I'll be the one to carry the beer because if it were up to them, we just wouldn't have beers because of the weight issue. But I guess for me, it's somehow become an essential, so I'm not sure.
It's worth its weight. Now, we're at the very beginning of 2025. We still got the whole year in front of us. Is there any hiking or travel goals that you have for 2025?
I think it was like a year ago, I had bought a backpack and I wanted to go backpacking through the Trinity Alps, but then a fire broke out, so I wasn't able to. So I'm hoping that this year I can finally take my backpack out and put it to use, and I would love to go backpacking through Trinity Alps. And then I would say also I would like to do more like international hiking. I know one of my friends recently went to Machu Picchu, and that's been at the top of my list for I don't even know how long. So if I had the opportunity to go there, I would 100% go.
And that just kind of leads you into other little side trips, especially being down there in South America.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that was it for the regular questions, Betsy. The last portion of the podcast is the this or that questions. I'm going to give you 10 hiking-related topics, and you just choose which one you prefer out of the two. Some of them are new for Season 9, like the first one. When it comes to your trail snacks, do you prefer sweet or savory?
Definitely sweet.
And then, do you prefer waterfalls or summits?
Waterfalls.
And when it comes to trails, do you prefer a trail with switchbacks, or would you rather just go straight up?
That one's questionable. As much as I don't like switchbacks, I'm going to go with switchbacks.
This next one is the most controversial one, but trek poles or freehand?
Freehand. I'm going to say I've actually tried trekking poles before, and for some reason I feel like it makes it more difficult for me. I'm not sure why.
You got to find a rhythm, and I feel like some people it throws off their natural hiking rhythm, so it becomes kind of cumbersome to have them.
Yeah. Honestly, I only tried it once, and after that, I just kind of do it freehand.
And then this next one is about your footwear. Do you prefer trail runners or traditional hiking boots?
Hiking boots.
And then another trail system question. Do you prefer a loop trail or an out and back trail?
I would say out and back trail.
And then do you prefer group hikes or solo adventures?
I think it depends on the length and how hard the trail is. Sometimes I really like solo adventures just because I get to kind of control what happens. But if it's a hike that's extremely long, like Half Dome or even the Wave or Angel's Landing, I would 100% prefer it as a group than just me by myself.
Love that answer. And then these are the hardest ones, but sunset hikes or sunrise hikes?
I'm going to go with sunset hikes.
And then equally tough, spring wildflowers or fall colors?
Fall colors.
And then if you had to choose between these two, would you choose a steep climb or long distance?
I think I would probably go with long distance.
Well, that was it, Betsy, for the this or that questions. For folks that want to follow your adventures in 2025, where are some of the places on social media or online that they can follow along?
For right now, I only have Instagram. I have been thinking about creating a blog, but I haven't done one just yet. But as of right now, my Instagram is Betsy_the_explorer.
And we'll be sure to put that in the episode show notes so people can follow along. Betsy, it has been a pleasure talking to you, and I know 2025 is going to have some equally rewarding destinations for you, and I know you're going to be crossing off other bucket list destinations and experiences, but really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to speak with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great, and I've really appreciated being able to share a little bit about my life and my journey.
And that brings us to the end of this episode alongside Betsy. We extend a heartfelt thanks to her for coming on the podcast. Make sure to follow her adventures on Instagram at Betsy the Explorer with underscores between each word. Also, don't forget to check out the episode show notes to learn more. We have an incredible lineup of episodes planned throughout the winter months, and we can't wait to share them with you. New episodes will be dropping every Monday with occasional bonus episodes on Friday. To ensure you never miss out on these thrilling tales, remember to hit the like and subscribe button. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to check out our vibrant community on Instagram at Hikes and Mics. We'll be sharing episode visuals, my own personal hiking content, and so much more. Let's stay connected and continue to inspire each other on this remarkable journey. As we bid farewell, remember to tread those happy trails, embrace the great outdoors, and keep the spirit of adventure alive. Until next time, my fellow explorers, happy hiking. This episode's music was created by Ketsa. Follow him on Instagram at Ketsa Music. This episode is brought to you by Ursa Minor Outfitters. Folks, I'm absolutely in love with my loon mug. It's handmade, it's an absolute piece of art. Whether it's at the office or at the house, people keep asking to check it out. If you're not a loon fan, they also have other beautiful mugs for wildlife fans of moose, bears, and eagles. They specialize in products highlighting the outdoors and local pride through quality design by local artists. They've even started expanding into items beyond mugs, like apparel, dog accessories, and soon candles and more. They also try to partner and highlight other small businesses, and in some cases, forego profits in lieu of charitable giving to help their community, such as the dog rescue. So check them out, ursaminoutfitters.com, and enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for our four-legged hiking partners, they also have a portable silicone dog bowl and also a sweet over-the-collar dog bandana. Go check them out, ursaminoutfitters.com, and don't forget to enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order.